Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. It's another Premier League prediction show that we've got for you in store today. It's another week, it's another round of Premier League fixtures, game week 2. And there are some big and interesting games in store. But before we go any further in predicting the outcomes of these fixtures, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe for new. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. But for now, let's go back talking about the upcoming round of Premier League fixtures for game week 2. Kicking things off with Saturday's lunchtime kickoff, it is Liverpool who are looking to make it 2 wins from 2, hosting Burnley at Anfield. The Clarets, of course, will be looking to bounce back from their opening day defeat to Brighton. Honestly, on paper, this should be one of the more predictable calls for this weekend, one of the more predictable fixtures to call. Liverpool should win this game, but it will be a tough test for them regardless, given how solid that we know that Burnley can be defensively and also as well as physically. But I think that if the Reds can continue where they left off from last week against Norwich, the Reds should pick up the 3 points here, and especially because it's back in front of a full capacity crowd at Anfield. Therefore, I am going to go for a Liverpool victory and say that the Reds will win 3-1. Our next game brings us to two sides who suffered defeats on the opening day of the season last weekend as Aston Villa host Newcastle at Villa Park. Villa suffered a bit of a reality check dealt to them by Watford last week, of course, a bit of a knockdown to earth from their summer spending spree, which had both fans and neutral fans alike intrigued and a little bit excited as to seeing a new look Villa side in action. Whilst Newcastle looked good for 45 minutes against West Ham, but then faded as the Hammers took full control of that game and ended up on the winning end of it. What happens here? I honestly predict that Villa will get the job done. I think it will be a better performance from them from last weekend, and they will get the 3 points against the Magpies in this game. I've got Villa to win 2-1 here. Selhurst Park plays hosts to Brentford's first away day in the Premier League as Crystal Palace look to bounce back against the Bees, who are flying high after their first Premier League game and victory over Arsenal to kick off the brand new season. It was always going to be a tough ask for Palace to come up and try to overcome Chelsea last week, whilst Brentford were very, very good against Arsenal and created their first shock of the campaign. But this is going to be an interesting game ahead. There's going to be something a little bit different for both sides. It really could go either way, but if I had to put my neck on the line and give a prediction, which is the whole point of this video, surprisingly, then I am going to go and say that Brentford make it 2 wins from 2. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say Brentford make it 2 wins from 2. They make back-to-back wins, and that the Bees will win 2-1 in this game. Ellen Road welcomes back fans to full capacity as Leeds are looking to bounce back from their opening day 5-1 thrashing dealt to them by Manchester United last week by facing Everton in this game, with the Toffees, of course, kicking off their season last week and kicking off the Rafa Benitez era with a 3-1 victory over Southampton. This one is going to be an interesting one. Believe me on this, because it's pretty much attack versus defence. You've got the very attacking outfit of Leeds United, and of course, any Rafa Benitez side is going to be one that favours the more defensive approach, as we're probably going to see in this game. So it could be a very intriguing game ahead, a very intriguing battle ahead at Ellen Road. I think Leeds will either have the crowd behind them, and that will give them enough confidence to go on and win this game, or Everton could be strong and resolute and come away with a point. I'm going to predict the latter. I'm not entirely confident by this because it might be too early in the Rafa Benitez reign to sort of see his sort of vision and see his sort of style implemented on this team. It may be a little bit early for that, but something says to me that Everton will gain a point here. But it wouldn't surprise me if Leeds win. Like I say, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm going to go for the 1-1 draw here. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. And if that is true, and no one else draws before this game, this will be the first draw of this season. Manchester City host Norwich at the Etihad Stadium in our next game of focus. City's title defence didn't get off to the best of starts as they lost 1-0 to Tottenham last Sunday, whilst Norwich's return to the Premier League was ultimately spoilt by Liverpool as the Reds came out 3-0 winners against the Canaries. Again, this should be one of the more predictable results this weekend, should being the key word there, because this could have the potential to be a bit of a banana skin kind of fixture. City on paper should have no problem here and get the job done. But again, games aren't won on paper. And I remember a couple of years ago, this same fixture, Norwich came into this game coincidentally at the beginning or near the beginning of the season with a number of injuries to boot and still came out 3-2 winners. So that does seem to be something that Norwich can cling on to as a bit of hope going into this game. However, personally, I don't see history repeating itself. I think City go on and win this game, and I'm going to predict a 3-0 City win. Two sides who got off to perfect starts last week meet at the Amex Stadium. Brighton, who beat Burnley, whilst Watford beat Aston Villa on their return to England's top flight division. What will happen when these two winning sides clash here? Still an early season aura of mystery around these two sides, of course. Got off to great starts, of course, with victories last week. But now they clash, and this is going to be an interesting game ahead. I'm going to call it down the middle because I can see it going either way. But I'm going to call it down the middle. I'm going to go for a draw, and I'm going to say that it will finish 1-1 come the final whistle. But like I say, this result could go any which way. Sunday, we'll see St Mary's play host to Southampton versus Manchester United. Southampton lost their opening game to Everton 3-1, whilst United, of course, put Leeds to the sword by winning 5-1. If United continue from where they left off last week, it could be a long afternoon for Southampton. And again, they won't like me reminding them, the Saints fans won't like me for reminding you about this. But of course, the last time that these two teams met, United ended up absolutely thrashing you 9-0. And Southampton did end that game with 9 men as well. So who knows? But maybe again, this might have the potential to be a bit of a banana skin result for your accumulators this weekend if you're putting bets on. Maybe it might be one of them days for United. Maybe the stars will align for Southampton. Maybe they can come away with a win or something. Doubtful, but maybe. I'm going to predict a 3-1 United win regardless. Next, we see the return of Nuno Espirito Santo to Molineux as his new club Tottenham travel to face old club Wolves Sunday afternoon. Wolves looking to bounce back from their opening day defeat to Leicester, while Spurs had the perfect start to the season despite not having Harry Kane there, as they beat Premier League champions Manchester City 1-0 last week. The least said about what happened midweek against some Portuguese side in the Europa Conference League, with all due respect, you are just some Portuguese side to a lot of us over here. The better as far as Spurs are concerned, because quite embarrassing that they lost 1-0 in that Europa Conference League qualifier or whatever it was called. Anyway, back to this game. Arguably, this is the bigger test for Tottenham. They've faced and beaten teams like Manchester City before a fair few times over the years. The issue for them has obviously been keeping the consistency, especially when it comes to teams in and around them and a bit below them. And Wolves obviously fit in with that criteria. It was a great counter-attacking performance last week by Spurs. This one may have to be a little bit different and may have to adapt. I doubt it will be as an open game as what it was last week, and it will be interesting to see how both sides actually adapt to that. I can see Spurs winning, but I can also see a draw. I'm gonna go for a draw in this one. I was gonna go Spurs, but I think the more I think about it, the more I think that a draw may be on the cards here. but only just. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw in this game. For the penultimate game on this list, we're going to jump straight ahead to Monday night's game as the London Stadium hosts West Ham versus Leicester. Both sides obviously kicked off their new season with victories. West Ham had a solid second half display that saw them see off at Newcastle, and Jamie Vardy was back among the goals as the Foxes beat Wolves. Big game feel to this one, very interesting game ahead. Two sides who have European football ambitions, of course, this season, and this is surely going to be a great clash to watch on Monday night. It's another one that could go any which way. Leicester's attacking play might play into the counter-attacking style, might play into the hands of the counter-attacking style of West Ham, but the Foxes may just have a little bit more about them and be a bit stronger in key areas to see off David Moyes' side and neutralise their threats. Wouldn't be surprised whichever way the result goes, but I'm going to predict back-to-back wins for the Foxes here. I'm going to say that Leicester win this game, and I'm going to predict a 2-1 scoreline in favour of Brendan Rodgers' side. And acting as a bit of a main event to this round of Premier League fixtures this weekend, it is a London derby to sink your teeth into as Arsenal and Chelsea battle it out at the Emirates Stadium. And going into the game, I've got to be honest, it doesn't look good for the Gunners. They lost 2-0 to Brentford last week and are coming up against a Chelsea side who look like they are ready to go this season. Oh, and they've just added Romelu Lukaku to their ranks. Yeah, it really doesn't look good for the Gunners, does it, on paper? Regardless, this isn't a complete foregone conclusion. I remember last season we saw the Gunners do the double over Chelsea, despite the fact that obviously Chelsea went into both games as heavy favourites. And like I say, it's a London derby, so the whole kind of cliche comes out in this one. The form goes out the window and anything goes, and you know, it should be a game that everybody is fired up for, and it shouldn't take too much to fire you up for this game. The whole kind of shtick that comes with derby day games. And it will be interesting to see how both sides adapt and both sides play out this game. It will also be interesting to see what the atmosphere is like inside the Emirates Stadium, particularly from, of course, the Arsenal fans. Maybe that's something to bear in mind too when making your own predictions. And again, it could be a bit of a banana skin for Chelsea. We have to realise that possibility, but I just don't see it happening. I think Chelsea will be strong defensively. They'll win the midfield battle, and I imagine that Romelu Lukaku will have an instant impact upon his return, upon his re-debut, so to speak. And I think he will actually get on the score sheet this weekend. And therefore, I'm going to predict a 3-1 Blues victory. But as I always say, these are just my thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, whatever you want to call it, on these Premier League fixtures for game week 2 of the brand new season. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of these games? What are your own predictions on all of these Premier League games that are coming up this weekend? I'd love to know your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, whatever you want to call it, down below in the comments section. I'm sure they'll all make interesting reading. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way up if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always and for would be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Premier League prediction show. And I will see and speak with you all again soon in another video.